Hi everybody, it's Alex James and this is Xena. She might have to get put back on the floor if she starts interrupting me. Happy fall. It's been kind of a crazy summer for us around here, but things are starting to settle down and I have been writing the keys off my laptop. Actually, this is my daughter's laptop because I broke mine, so I need to get it in and be repaired. Anyway, I thought I would come on here today to give you a little sneak peek of the Measure of Honor. The Measure of Trust just launched recently, and in the back of it there is a preview of the Measure of Honor, but I can give you a quick rundown of what's in there if you haven't had a look yet. Basically what happens is that there is no Georgiana in this story. Darcy has a younger brother named Harry instead, who is in the army. Harry comes home in the very first chapter for a visit to his brother, and Darcy and Harry go out for a ride. Harry had been telling Darcy about this really great girl he just met. Her name is Elizabeth Bennet, and he wants to marry her. And Darcy is like, what are you thinking? I mean, who is this girl? And Harry is just, no, this is important. I have to marry her. You need to call the solicitor. We need to get this figured out, things going here. He doesn't really say much else, doesn't get a chance to. There is an accident and Harry is killed. Hi, Xena. Fast forward a little bit later, Darcy is sorting Harry's possessions and he sees some pretty interesting information about this girl. And he sees a letter that makes him believe or understand that this girl has been more than compromised by Harry, which is why Harry was planning to marry her. So I'm not going to give any details about that because things are not always as they seem. I'm just going to give you that little snippet right there. But right now we have a very guilty feeling Darcy, and he sees something pretty awful that his brother left in his wake, and it's up to him to fix it. So here we are, Darcy making that decision, and I'll go ahead and just read you that chapter, and if she gets obnoxious, I'll put her down, but she's so stinking cute that I had to hold her. She sits on my lap a lot as I'm writing. All right, here we go. Darcy paced the length of his study, his boots scuffing the polished floor as he tried, yet again, to find a reason not to go. The direction to the Gardner household sat neatly on the desk, written in Bingley's hastily scribbled hand, taunting him. Every instinct screamed at him to ignore it, to turn back, to let the matter dissolve into the shadows from which it had emerged. What if the girl was a fortune hunter? What if the accusations were false? He paused, gripping the back of a chair tightly as his stomach churned. What if she was innocent? What if everything in that wretched letter was true? His brother had seduced her, left her with child, and now it fell to him to salvage what little remained of their family's honor. Darcy groaned, the burden of his duty settling like iron in his chest. If this was true, he had no choice. He had to marry her. The thought was enough to turn his stomach over again. He could feel the bile rising, threatening to overcome him, and without thinking, he hurried from the study, barely making it to his chambers before he was violently ill. His whole body shook as he leaned over the basin, panting heavily, trying to steady himself. He closed his eyes and forced himself to think of Harry, his brother, full of life and laughter, now gone, and it was Darcy's fault. His brother, who had left a woman ruined, carrying his child, a child Harry had meant to claim if Darcy's own incompetence had not robbed him of that chance. Darcy clenched his fist, anger mingling with the grief and guilt that never quite left him. It was his duty to make this right. His father would have expected no less of him. But still, the nausea persisted. What if this girl, this Miss Elizabeth Bennet, was nothing more than a cunning schemer? What if she'd led Harry on, seeing in him an easy target, a way to ensnare a man of fortune? The thought twisted Darcy's gut further. He could not, would not, sacrifice his future for a fraud, no matter what the letter said, and no matter how guilty he felt. Yet, Darcy's stomach roiled again, and he only barely dodged the necessity of another trip to the basin. How could he even think of his own needs and wants now? He'd lost that right. If this girl were truly carrying Harry's child, Darcy, he would have to marry her. There was no other option. His family's honor demanded it, and so did his devotion to Harry's memory. Straightening, Darcy splashed cold water on his face and steadied himself in the mirror. He was pale, gaunt from sleepless nights, but his resolve had solidified. His mind was made up. He would confront Miss Bennet. He would see the truth in her face when he told her of Harry's death. If she was genuine in her grief, he would know. If she were truly, as the letter said, he would be able to see it. And if not, Well, he had every intention of offering her a generous settlement and leaving her to whatever fate awaited a woman who had ruined herself for a lie. He dressed quickly, the stiff cravat and fine coat feeling like a kind of armor, though it did little to calm his churning thoughts. His manservant hovered nearby, watching him with concern, but Darcy waved him off with a terse nod. There was no time for hesitation now. "Have the carriage brought round," he muttered, his voice hoarse. The carriage ride was a blur of nerves and nausea. The horse's hooves clattered along the cobblestones, and each jolt sent another wave of unease through him. The closer they came to Gracechurch Street, the more Darcy's mind snarled with panic. What kind of woman was this Elizabeth Bennet? Why had Harry entangled himself with the niece of a tradesman? Oh, Bingley had insisted their father was a gentleman, but still, Harry had known better. He needed a wife of some fortune, someone to match his status, not the daughter of a country squire. It was irresponsible and reckless. And yet, despite his irritation, despite the gnawing dread, Darcy felt the heavy pull of duty. The thought of the girl's grief, the child she might be carrying, it all sat like a stone in his stomach. If Harry had indeed wronged her, then Darcy had no choice. He would do what was necessary, as always. As the carriage drew to a halt in front of the gardener's modest townhouse, Darcy swallowed hard, his palms already damp with sweat. He shot his cuffs, trying to shake the trembling from his hands. "Wait for me," he instructed the driver, his voice tight. He would not be long. This meeting could end quickly if the woman proved to be a fraud. Darcy strode to the front door, his lip curling as he looked over the house. The Gardiners were tradespeople, after all. Wealthy, perhaps, but still beneath the Darcys in rank. "Harry, what did you do?" He knocked firmly, steeling himself. The door was opened by a manservant who looked at Darcy with mild surprise, his expression quickly shifting to one of formality. "I am here to speak with Mr. Gardiner," Darcy said, his tone clipped, formal. The manservant's brows flickered upward slightly, but he nodded. "Mr. Gardiner is not in, sir. He is not expected to return until later this evening." Darcy hesitated, frustration bubbling to the surface. For a brief moment he considered turning away, postponing the inevitable. But no, he had steeled himself for this meeting, been ill over it, barely forced himself into the carriage. It had to happen today. "Then I would speak with Miss Elizabeth Bennet," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. "Your name, sir?" He swallowed. "Darcy." The manservant's face altered ever so slightly. Curiosity, perhaps. A hint of disdain? But the man bowed, gesturing for Darcy to follow him inside. "Please wait here, sir," the manservant said, as he opened the door to the hall. Darcy's pulse quickened as he heard murmured voices from the drawing room just beyond. "Excuse me, ladies," the manservant's voice filtered back. "There is a Mr. Darcy calling for Miss Elizabeth." Darcy's breath hitched in his chest. He could feel the sweat beginning to gather at his collar as his palms grew clammy. There was immediate outcry from within the room, voices rising in surprise and joy. Darcy stiffened. Surely this woman was desperate. Already she had pinned her hopes on him. It was enough to make his stomach turn once more. "He is here!" one voice exclaimed, full of breathless relief. "Oh, thank heaven!" "Show him in!" another voice added, trembling with emotion. Darcy swallowed hard, tugging at his cuffs once more, and forced himself to step forward, his legs leaden. His hands felt slick as he wiped them against his coat and entered the drawing room. The first thing he saw was 3 faces turned toward him, 2 young women and an older lady. The woman in the middle was striking, blonde, with a graceful composure about her that immediately put Darcy at some ease. He fervently hoped this was Elizabeth Bennet. A woman like her would be manageable, decent. He could see her pale expression, her hands folded neatly in her lap, the perfect picture of restraint. But then his eyes shifted to the other young woman. Her. The brunette stood, her body almost vibrating with tension, her eyes bright with feeling. Her dark hair framed a face alive with some internal storm, her whole being quivering as if the mere sight of him had sent a shock through her. Darcy's stomach sank, the blood rushing in his ears. Please let it not be her. But it was. She took a step forward, her confusion apparent as she tilted her head, the color rising in her cheeks, her nostrils flaring with the weight of some emotions barely contained. Her lips parted, trembling slightly, and when she spoke, her voice was tight, uncertain, as if she was barely holding herself together. "Harry?" she whispered. Her eyes searched his face, widening with dread. "Where's Harry?" Okay, so I'm going to leave you right there. Isn't that awful of me? That is a scene in chapter 4. So we're just kind of getting rolling with the story. This is their first introduction. Obviously, this is a forced marriage scenario, and I don't write those too often, but they're really kind of fun. So I'm having a lot of fun with this story, and I hope you enjoy it when it comes out. I'll drop a link in here so that you can take a look at it online, and it will be in Kindle Unlimited. I expect it to be launching early November because it's going really fast, and I've been able to write a lot this fall because I'm not playing so much in the sunshine. So anyway, I thought I'd just say hello to you guys. It's good to talk to you, and we'll chat soon. Bye.